everybody. Thanks to this week's movie, I'm having a coffin problem. Literally. Ugh. This does not put the fun in funeral. This is 1967's Vi. After a prologue explaining the great history of the folktale of Vi, we get a long pan of seminarians doing what seminarians do when it's time for a holiday. Their leader lays down a warning, to which these rapscallions will clearly abide by. After a prayer that sounds more like a plea to behave, spring break is on like Donkey Kong. Coma and his fellow travelers lose their trail, and like typical guys, blame it on everything but themselves. After wandering around for some time, they run across a farmhouse and list their names and ranks like they're in a game of D&D. The little old lady is so impressed by Coma, she comes on to him, but his reply is less than interested. She proves to be really spry, mounting him like a horse. And I mean that literally. He doesn't appreciate it and beats her to death with whatever the opposite of an ugly stick is. He flees, arriving back at the church just in time to be dispatched on behalf of a wealthy church patron whose dying daughter asked for him by name. Along the journey to the patron's estate, Coma and company drink vodka and sing the night away. He even shows his traveling companions what seminarians are taught. Upon arriving at the estate, Coma discovers the patron's dead daughter is actually the old witch he beat with a broom the previous night. To put it mildly, he's strongly encouraged to honor her last wish, which involves 3 nights of prayer over her body. After the funeral, they arrive at a really cool church where the daughter will lay in state. Coma is locked in and he threatens the girl's corpse before lighting every candle in the house and sticking them to every possible surface. I'm pretty sure this scene alone blew the entire movie's candle budget. His praying starts strong, but soon his mind wanders to snuff and his subsequent sneezing wakes up the corpse. To protect himself, he draws a sacred circle while the corpse plays a wicked game of invisible wall. A cock finally crows, and she returns to death. The next night, his drunken circle skills create more of an oval or perhaps an ellipse. As he prays for his soul, the girl's coffin takes flight and scares the shit out of him. The sacred oval holds as the corpse blows the coffin lid and starts a brand new sport, which I have no doubt will make its worldwide debut in the coming years. The cock crows again as Coma tosses his boot at the surfing corpse, and either the power of the dawn or the smell of his boot drives the coffin back to the beer. Before returning to death, she curses him with blindness and white hair. But it must have been only a half-hearted spell because only his hair changes. After leaving the church, he insists on music and dancing before going to the estate patron to beg to be released from his duties. I guess it wasn't that hard of a decision for him. The third night begins with more corpse abuse and a mostly round yet still drunken sacred circle. The corpse returns to life, cursing him, and in return he asks God to curse her right back. The results of all the curses gets a little creepy. Their lively debate leads to demons of all shapes and sizes coming out of the woodwork. Their variety and ferocity boggle Coma's mind. And that's before the big bad comes out to play. Vi arrives in the house, and the poor guy requires help to open his massive eyes because he has T-Rex arms. The sacred circle fails, and Coma gets mosh pitted. Afterwards, demons look like they just got done with a kegger, and for a final time, the corpse returns to death. Coma's ultimate fate is left up to the imagination. Vi is a 1967 Soviet horror film based on a horror novella by Nikolai Gogol, first published in 1835 as part of a larger collection of stories. The titular Vi translates as Chief of the Gnomes, and despite the allusions to folklore, it is thought that Vi was created by Gogol himself and wasn't specifically part of traditional Russian stories. It is considered to be the first Soviet-era horror movie to be officially released in the USSR, and you can definitely see the care that was taken to tell a captivating tale that would impress audiences. The visual effects, locations, and general plot are memorable, the characters, especially the witch, were well cast, and the overall experience is that of a very likable and rewatchable movie. It's also listed in the book 1001 Movies to See Before You Die, where it's described as colorful, entertaining, and a genuinely frightening film of demons and witchcraft that boasts some remarkable special effects work by Russia's master of cinematic fantasy. There was also a remake released in 2014 starring Jason Fleming, known as Vi 3D or Forbidden Empire. The story is loosely based on the original horror novella. It broke opening weekend records in Russia and was a huge commercial success despite mixed reviews. Vi does a lot of things right, and those things combined make it a joy to watch time and time again. By its very nature, there's a level of atmosphere you can feel in the surroundings, even before considering all that transpires within. It was actually shot in an 18th century church that feels as rustic as they come. It has the look of a place that's seen action over the centuries. A witch returning from the dead to torment a young seminarian is something that would probably happen there. The church, known as St. George's in Sednev, Ukraine, still stands and looks like quite a lovely, peaceful place. Whether it was intended or not, there is quite a good level of humor across the board. The witch is playful, the estate villagers are weirdly chill with all the supernatural things happening around them, and poor Coma himself feels like a comically frustrated character whose worst enemy is himself. When I started the movie, I didn't expect the level of effects that were ultimately used. There are some really well done compositing shots, a ton of practical effects, some really excellent makeup and prosthetics, a lot of interesting camera angles, and some exceptionally good crab-walking actors. Vi himself was played by a circus artist cast for his strength because you can clearly see how heavy the costume was. I ran across this one while scrolling through Shudder Essentials, and I'm grateful for it. I'm not that well versed in Russian folklore or Soviet-era cinema, so I had no idea whether this would be awesome, terrible, or something else entirely. Vi is a total gem that is worth a watch, and it makes me want to dig deeper into movies from that neck of the woods. It's darkly funny, and the effects are creepy even on multiple watches. If you enjoy folk humor or just a fun dark comedy, you should totally check this one out. So what do you think? Suggestions for movies, trivial questions, comments, ratings, and a surfing coffin of my very own would be appreciated. Thank you so very much for watching.